ethnic minority brutalized by the Burmese authorities. For 60 years, in the midst of this hostile jungle, the Karen National Liberation Army has fought a desperate war against the military junta in power. 7,000 ill-equipped men resist against over 100,000 Burmese soldiers. A one-sided fight, a war forgotten by all. The Burmese generals have decided to cleanse the country of Karen. The SPDC, the Burmese army, focuses attacks on civilians. Whole battalions raid villages, soldiers burn, loot, rape, execute and torture the inhabitants. These pictures were shot by Burmese soldiers during one of their death raids. Last December, Dan Shui, the historic leader of the military junta, decided the transfer of the new capital of Burma to Pyongyang, a small provincial town north of Rangoon. Army attacks have since increased, turning the Karen people's life into a major humanitarian catastrophe. There are now 300,000 Karen refugees attempting to survive in the mountains on the Thai border, some 750 miles long. Refugees suffer from malnutrition, malaria, and mines. No humanitarian organisation is allowed in the region, and the Thai border police does all it can to stop anyone from crossing the border. We entered Burma illegally and have managed to follow Karen fighters for several weeks. We were the witnesses of a secret genocide. Entering Karen territory through Burma is impossible. This is a forbidden area controlled by the Burmese army. The only way in is to cross discreetly on the border from Thailand. We're in Mai Sot. The Bridge of Friendship marks the border. On the other side, Burma. The checkpoint is only open a few hours a day to Burmese workers. The Karen who try to cross over to Thailand are turned away by the border police. The hunt for refugees is on. Some Karen live in Thailand illegally. They cross to and from Burma to supply their people with food and medicine. We too are about to cross the border illegally with one of the groups. After a 3-week wait, they're prepared to meet us in the middle of the countryside, out of sight. Among them, volunteer workers and Karen fighters. The river marks the border. It is under close surveillance. Burmese and Thais control the banks and stop those who try to cross it. Only a very few crossing points escape their vigilance. The Karen do not waste time. We must cross quickly before the Thai patrol arrives. The dugout floats silently towards Burma. Behind the ridges stand the Karen military outposts. We've reached Kwothu Lay, the green country as the Karen call it. For their safety, they've insisted we don't start filming before our arrival at the camp. The next morning, we meet the Karen officers. The soldiers are on the lookout. The nearest enemy camp is only a few hundred yards away. The Karen army is living on borrowed time. The men are poorly equipped. Their weapons are old. American M16s and Vietnamese Kalashnikovs. The ammunition is rationed. There is no money. The KNLA has always refused to resort to drug trafficking to finance its war. They are outnumbered by a ratio of 10 to 1 by the Burmese army. Some of them are not even 20. We're in Captain Tay Lee Mya's camp, the youngest son of General Bo Mya, the historical emblem of the Karen fight. In the captain's opinion, the Burmese dictatorship has programmed to cleanse all of his people.
nó nè bơ à cái nàyเราตักไปได้ยาวอุ่นลอยเนี่ยไปดอดสิเวดีหรอแต่เราเดี๋ยวมุ่งสายดุนยาเนี่ยจะมีไปเลยสารวัตรที่ว่าก็มีว่ะเราเดี๋ยวมุ่งสายดุนยาเขารู้ได้เลยเอาวันนี้หรอสารวัตรบอกจ้าก็สารวัตรก็เอาวันนี้ที่จะบลิก็จะบลิสารวัตรตั้งไปตั้งคือหรอว่าจะว่า
This soldier has never died tattooed on the back of his hand.
ว่าจะว่าเนาะบ้านนอนเนี่ยบ้าหาลูกเสือกลูกละบ้าหาลูกตาจุกละตากูค่ะเนาะตาเลือดเปรี้ยวอ่ะนั่นก็น่าว่าจะตู้ชาดาละเนาะแต่เลือดว่าให้แกสื่อนี่เอาเลือดตาเอปากเลือดกูเราจะให้เราจะมีตาเลือดพ่อชูตาเลือดก่อนนี่ชูอ่ะเดี๋ยวว่าจะเลือดตาเอปากเลือดตามุนี่สารเราอย่าชี้ก็เนาะตอนนอนนี่บ้าตาเอาวันนี้ไปยอจมูกโดนมาสิมาวะ
The situation has worsened since the capital was changed. The attacks on Karen villages have now become a daily occurrence, despite the fact that the military junta has entered ceasefire negotiations with the KNLA.
Our tesla mata kuda pull valene. Coplo dalo, our six server. Tauta omiri magida was to pull me, no atalota cleolota miniatis pass. It was super mahagot senior with the magida where.
Decimated by enemy attacks, the KNLA is no longer able to launch a large-scale offensive to stop the Burmese army's progress. Alone with no outside help, Karen soldiers stand on the front lines in an attempt to foil the dictatorship's genocide plans. As early as the next day, we are off on a reconnaissance mission. A week ago, villages were attacked. Commandos must look for survivors. The Karen soldiers walk in single file, not swerving from the narrow path running into the jungle. In this area, all roads are under Burmese control. The fighters cut across the jungle. We are now several dozens of miles away from the border. 3 days' walk away from here, a group of Karen farmers have found refuge in the jungle after surviving a death raid on their village a week earlier. The farmers are hiding in the forest, scattered here and there. The soldiers don't know exactly where to look for them. The soldiers scan the area all around the path looking for mines. We are making slow progress, deep inside the tropical forest. Yet the thickness of the jungle is our best protection against the Burmese who patrol the area. The Karen territory used to spread from the mountains of East Burma to the Andaman Sea on the west coast, but after 60 years of endless fighting, their territory has shrunk to nothing. The Burmese occupy the major part of Kwo Thulé, the Karen country. Today, the KNLA only controls a few enclaves of jungle, surrounded by Burmese camps. In these areas, that have been declared free fire zones by the junta, the SBDC can shoot anyone on sight. This is where Karen refugees try to survive. The soldiers listen for the slightest suspicious noise. Sometimes the column stops briefly. Tension peaks. Then the soldiers start off again silently. We must reach the other side of a ridge controlled by the Burmese army. On the other slope we hear a burst of machine gun fire. We do not know who they are and what they're firing at. The Karen don't seek confrontation. They would not be up to it. Flight is the only solution. It's nearly nightfall. The Karen have chosen a safe place to set up camp near a mountain stream. The soldiers have hung the hammocks and started a fire to boil some water and keep wild animals at bay. By candlelight, one of the soldiers writes down the day's events in a notebook. The next morning, breakfast is a speedy affair. We must not stay long in the same place. A